My name is Jerome Nur. I'm 57 years old, and for 12 years I paid for a family that forgot to save me a seat. I found out on Thanksgiving. The way most people find out things they weren't supposed to know. Facebook. I was in my shop off Route 14, eating leftover turkey my sister had dropped off the night before when a notification popped up. Nadine Barlow had posted an album. 37 photos. Caption: grateful for every one of them. I only had Nadine friend because of my grandson, Tucker, so I opened it. The first shot was the table. Long, rented, white cloth, good china. I counted 12 chairs. 12 people. Tucker showed up in picture 3, wearing a blue apron that said number 1 grandson, Perry Barlow's arm around him. My granddaughter Chloe was in picture 4, 3 years old, asleep on Nadine's lap with a dinner roll still in her fist. I scrolled through all 37 with a Tupperware balanced on my knee. 12 chairs, 12 people, not one empty seat, not one extra place setting. Somebody had made a list, handed it to Nadine, and my number wasn't on it. I need to be clear about something because everything that follows depends on it. I wasn't angry. Anger is what you feel when you think there's been a mistake. I sat there for the better part of an hour and knew this wasn't one. You don't leave a man off a list 12 times by accident. But I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with before I moved. So I finished the turkey, drove home, and opened my banking app. Here's what was on the screen. $1, $100 a month to my daughter and her husband Kirk's joint account. That started 4 years back when Kirk got laid off and the mortgage came due. And Stephanie called me from a Walmart parking lot crying, so hard I could barely make out words. I set it up that afternoon. Kirk went back to work 8 months later. The transfer never stopped. $520 a month toward Kirk's truck loan. His credit was shot when he bought it. The dealership wanted a co-signer. I signed. Told him I'd cover payments for a year while he got steady. That was 4 years ago. $380 a month for Stephanie's health insurance. After she left her office job to run a catering business and lost her coverage, I just added her to my small business plan and never made a thing of it. And $1,000 a month into a college fund I'd opened the week Tucker was born. Both kids named as beneficiaries. I did the math on a work order that night. Roughly $3,000 a month. 4 years running on most of it. 7 on the college account. About $210,000 total. I had never once brought it up. Not at a birthday, not at a cookout. When Kirk joked about his truck being the nicest thing he'd ever owned. Not when Stephanie told friends she'd built her business pretty much on her own. Not once. I closed the app and told myself I needed one more piece of information first. Tuesday, I drove to Stephanie's with 2 small gifts. A Lego set for Tucker, a coloring kit for Chloe. Her car wasn't in the driveway. The neighbor girl watching the kids let me in. And in the hallway, the one I'd helped Stephanie level and hang 2 years earlier, I noticed it. The photo from Tucker's first birthday, me holding him with cake on his nose. Both of us laughing, gone. The one from Chloe's hospital room. Me in the visitor chair, glasses pushed up on my forehead, gone. In their place, 3 new frames. Perry teaching Tucker to fish. The whole Barlow clan at a fall festival. Everyone in matching flannel by a Christmas tree. 14 frames on that wall. Not one had me in it. Tucker came sliding down the hall in his socks. Jerome, did you bring anything? I crouched down. You don't call me Grandpa? He shrugged. Mom says Grandpa's what you call Perry. She says 2 grandpas would be confusing. Chloe rounded the corner, dragging a stuffed elephant. Saw me. Lit up. Grandpa Romy. Tucker corrected her without looking up. Not Grandpa. That's Jerome. She stopped and looked between us. 3 years old, already trying to work out who was telling the truth. I told Tucker to call me whatever felt right, but that I wanted him to know who I was. Then I let myself out and sat in my truck for 8 minutes before I could drive. I went to my sister Roxanne's. She doesn't soften anything. Ellen loved that about her. It's taken me longer. I told her about the photos, the apron, the wall flat, like I was describing a dead capacitor to a customer. She didn't say, "Oh, Jerome." She said, "You weren't forgotten. You were retired." Then she pulled a glossy flyer off her counter. Asterisk Kirk Barlow for City Council. Community. Integrity. Family. Asterisk a professional photo across the bottom. The whole family on Perry and Nadine's porch. Everyone in coordinating blue. Kirk's hand on Tucker's shoulder. It had been sitting in her dentist's waiting room for 6 weeks. I looked at Chloe's dress. I recognized it. Her preschool spring show back in April. 7 months before Thanksgiving. The decision hadn't been made at that dinner table. It had already been made when that photo was taken. Thanksgiving was just the announcement. So here's the question, Roxanne said. If they were done with you by April, why did the money keep leaving your account all summer? I called Stephanie that Saturday. Restaurant noise behind her. I didn't mention the flyer. I asked what Chloe calls me. 3 seconds of silence. Then, Dad, don't turn this into a thing. I've got a lot on my plate. She hadn't asked what I meant. She already knew. That night, I opened the banking app and didn't close it. I canceled the mortgage transfer, canceled the truck payment, called my insurance broker Monday, and pulled Stephanie off my policy, effective immediately. The college fund I didn't touch. That money had never belonged to the adults. Instead, I drove to the credit union and moved the whole balance. $68, $400 into a $529 with myself as sole custodian. Same kids, same beneficiaries, different lock on the door. I mailed Stephanie a 4-sentence letter. Told her the mortgage help, the truck payment, and the insurance had ended. Told her the education money was safe, growing, and she could see the statements anytime. And I told her, asterisk, I am still your children's grandfather. I'm no longer your family's bank. Asterisk, nobody called for 19 days. I want to be honest. Those 19 days were some of the best I'd had in a while. And that bothered me. I took a big commercial job I'd been putting off. Fixed the gutters I'd been ignoring since February. Went fishing with my accountant Morris and caught nothing. Every night, I checked my phone. Nothing. On day 17, I made the mistake of opening Facebook. Stephanie had posted a video. A real commercial kitchen, triple the size of her home setup, announcing a partnership. She'd signed a contract for kitchen rental time the same month, the $1. 100 covering her shortfall had stopped. Nobody in that house had believed the letter. The first of the month arrived. I was up a ladder running conduit when my phone started buzzing. A text from Stephanie. Something's wrong with the bank. Then missed calls stacking up. Then Kirk, oddly calm, like a man closing a deal. So, how long are you planning to keep this going? Now what happened? Just how long? Then he said the wrong thing. You're punishing 2 little kids over a holiday dinner. I let it sit for a few seconds. Told him the education account hadn't stopped. It was in a $529 at the credit union. Custodial account, both kids named, still funded every month, balanced $68 for 100. Silence. You don't have the right to move that without our consent, he said. It's my money, I said. Neither of you ever put a dollar into it. Stephanie got back on, crying for real this time. Those are my children. And they're still getting every dollar I promised them, I said. The adults made choices. The kids didn't. That's the line. She hung up. Nadine called me the following Wednesday, first time in 10 years. She never mentioned money. Talked about grace, about the little ones, about misunderstandings between people who care about each other. Then, Kirk's campaign kickoff was in 3 weeks at Harrow Hall, and of course I should come. Family, she said warmly. That's what makes her effective. She wasn't calling to repair anything. She was setting a table again. And this time I had my own reason to sit at it. A few days later, an auto loan delinquency notice showed up in my mail. Kirk was 15 days past due. Then I heard he'd been pulled over for a cracked windshield and handed over an insurance card that no longer meant anything. His coverage had lapsed when I dropped him from my policy. Lapse liability insurance gets you a fine and State Route 22 filing, and a public citation printed in the county paper. Bad timing for a man running on the word integrity. Stephanie texted that night. You are burning down my entire life because you didn't get invited to Thanksgiving. I told her Connie from the insurance office had mailed the cancellation notice weeks earlier. She wrote back the next morning. He didn't open it. She came to my shop that Friday, still in her apron, crying before the door shut. I let her talk for 12 minutes about Nadine running every holiday, about Kirk controlling the money, about asking permission to spend more than $200. Some of it was true. When she finished, I asked one question. Who taught Chloe to call me Jerome? She wouldn't answer. That silence told me more than anything she'd said. At the door, she turned back. You never asked either, Dad. Not once. Do you know what that looks like from the outside? Like you didn't want to be there. She wasn't entirely wrong. 5 years since Ellen died, and I'd never once asked why I wasn't on a list. Ellen used to do the asking for both of us. Without her, I'd just gone quiet. 2 nights before the kickoff dinner, Perry called, something we'd never really done. He asked, straight out, why I hadn't been at Thanksgiving. I told him I wasn't invited. He said that wasn't what he'd heard, that I'd been stepping back. I sent him a screenshot of my one unanswered text from the year before, and the year before that. Long pause. That apron, he said. Nadine ordered it. I didn't know it was coming. Then, come to the dinner. I'll handle where you sit. I arrived 10 minutes early. Perry walked me straight to the head table. I watched Nadine glance down at a laminated seating chart, then at me, then set it face down without a word. Tucker spotted me and asked why I got to sit up front. Perry answered before I could. Because that's your grandfather's seat. You got 2 grandpas, Tucker. That's lucky. Tucker thought about it for 2 seconds, said, okay, and went to find bread. Kirk gave his speech, community, values, the usual. Then he raised his glass. Family isn't about obligation. It's about who chooses to show up. Applause from maybe a dozen people near him, thinning out fast toward the back. I stood up, asked to borrow the microphone. In front of 60 people and 2 of his campaign donors, he couldn't say no. I kept it short, said who I was, Stephanie's father, Tucker, and Chloe's grandfather. Said I'd been showing up for 11 years, that for 4 of them I'd covered $1. $100 a month toward a mortgage, $520 toward a truck, $380 toward insurance, $1. 000 into a college fund. I'd stopped 3 of those last month. That the 4th was still running because that one belonged to the kids. That I hadn't been invited to Thanksgiving, and I hadn't come tonight to embarrass anyone. I just needed someone to save me a seat. Perry saved me one tonight. Thank you, Perry. For seconds of silence. Then a man near the back started clapping, and it spread. Quiet, uneven, worse for them than loud would have been. Nadine didn't clap. Kirk left through the kitchen door. I left before dessert. Stephanie caught me in the parking lot. You humiliated me in front of everyone I know. No tears this time. That's how I knew we were finally being honest. It was me, she finally said, teaching Chloe. It was easier than fighting about it every Sunday. She told me more that night. The group text she wasn't included on, having to ask permission to spend money. Kirk once mentioning, almost casually, that his cousin practiced family law 2 counties over. If she couldn't commit to his family properly, are we going to be okay? She asked. Not yet, I said. But I think we're starting from the right place for the first time. I handed her an envelope, the 529 account details, balance, phone number. You don't need my permission for anything on that page. 3 days later, Tucker called. Are you really my grandpa? Like, for real? I scrolled back through old photos and sent him one from the hospital, 7 a.m., me holding him hours old in a plastic chair. I was the second person to hold you, I told him. Your mom was first. That's the right order. Long pause. Then, okay, Grandpa. First time in over a year. I wrote out new terms on the same legal pad and handed them to Stephanie the following week. The education account stays with me. Funded every month. Statements open to her anytime. No permission needed on either side. I take the kids every Wednesday, every week, not just convenient ones. I'm told about holidays before the reservation is made, not after, from Facebook. And no more automatic transfers, ever. If she's in real trouble, she comes to me and we figure out together, but the standing payments are finished. That's fair, she said. It's not generous, I told her. It's just true. She and Kirk separated that spring. Not because of anything I said about the marriage, which I never did. She just learned she was allowed to say no. And it turned out no wasn't something the house could carry. Kirk dropped out of the council race in January, citing family priorities. 2 donors quietly pulled their support the week after the dinner. Nadine and I don't speak. We nod at the grocery store. Perry goes fishing with me the first Saturday of every month and brings coffee. That S2 week, I've stopped mentioning it. Roxanne still says I'm too quiet. But at Christmas, she pointed a fork at me and said, "There's quiet where you don't say anything, and quiet where you already said it. You're finally the second kind." The 529 balance passed $79,000 in September. I still put in the same amount, first of every month. And I've never mentioned that number to anyone but Morris and now you. This past Father's Day, I was in the shop sorting a bin of copper fittings. That didn't need sorting when Tucker video called. "Grandpa, where are you?" "We're waiting." I made it in 11 minutes. 6 of us around Stephanie's table. Her, Tucker, Chloe, Roxanne, Perry, and me. A card was propped against my water glass, construction paper, uneven crayon letters. Grandpa Romy, with a drawing of what I'm fairly sure was a furnace. Because Chloe's decided that's what I do for a living. Not far off. My chair was at the end near the kitchen. Not the head, not the center. The seat where you can refill everyone's water without anyone having to move. Ellen always sat there. I never thought much about it until there was a card on it with my name spelled mostly right, placed there before I'd even walked in. That's what this was always about. Not the money, not the seating chart, not the apron. It was the card someone makes before you arrive, the one with your name on it. Because somebody counted, and when they counted, they put you in the number. If nobody's writing your name on that table, you're allowed to stop clearing it for everyone else.